These are assembly instructions for my triple waterfall card. I have 12 print and cut square images. I'm putting glue on the underside of each one of them and then gluing them to an 80-pound cardstock base, trying to center them as best I can. I'm doing that with all 12 of them. So now that I've glued down all of my images, I'm going to work on my card base. My card base is cut out of Cricut craft board, and I folded on that center score line. Then I have 2 squares that I've cut out of pattern cardstock. I'm putting glue on the underside of each one of them and then gluing them down to my card base. I want an even border on all 4 sides for both panels. So next I'm working on my mechanisms. So I have 3 pieces that are cut out of 80-pound cardstock, and they each have tabs on one end. And then I have 3 other pieces that are cut out of craft board. For this, you could also use a heavier cardstock. 110-pound cardstock, for instance, would do quite nicely. So I have 2 of them that are the same length and one of them that's a little bit shorter. So I'm going to take one of the longer ones, and then I'm taking one of my mechanism pieces. It kind of looks like a T. I'm folding down on the 5 score lines that run the width of my piece. So I have my series of score lines towards the top. The tab is at the end. I'm putting glue all over that tab from the score line to the end. And then I'm taking that rectangle that's cut out of the thicker material, and I'm just gluing it down right at the score line. And the edges should be nice and even. So I'm holding my mechanism so that I have the 2 tabs towards me. I'm putting glue between the first set of horizontal score lines, so I'm just covering that section in glue. And then I'm taking one of my images and I'm gluing it down right at the top of that score line. So if I fold on that score line, my image is right at the top and it's even on both sides. And then I'm putting glue between the next 2 score lines, and I'm taking another one of my little square images and gluing it. So it's just glued down between the score lines. I don't want glue in anywhere else on my mechanism. And then I'm putting glue between the next set of score lines and taking another image, gluing it in place, and one more time the exact same thing. So that's one of the 3 mechanisms ready to install. I'm taking the other longer rectangle that's cut out of the heavy material and my second piece that's shaped a little bit like a T, and I'm going to do the exact same thing with it. And so then I have my final mechanism for my 3rd waterfall. I folded down on the 5 score lines, and I'm putting glue on the tab that's on the end. Then I'm gluing this rectangle just at that score line. Then I'm putting glue from the edge of that panel to the first score line, and then I'm gluing down one of my images just like I did for the others. I'm doing that again for the next image, and the 3rd, and the 4th. And I'm just burnishing all of those folds now that my images are glued down. So next I'm just dry fitting my 3 mechanisms. I'm going to remove the one that doesn't have the tabs, and I have the 2 tabs on either side. I'm folding them around. I've put a score line on the tabs, but you don't necessarily have to follow those score lines. You want those tabs folded over, but you don't want them folded over too tightly, because then your mechanism will be too difficult to move. After they're folded over, I'm putting glue on both tabs, and I'm keeping them folded over as I position my mechanism. I want there to be an even border at the top, the bottom, and on the side as much as possible. I've installed the one on the left. Now I'm going to install the one on the right. I'm folding over those tabs, and I'm putting glue on them. I'm keeping them in position, even border on all 3 sides, and just gluing those 2 tabs down. So the only place where these mechanisms are glued down is right where those tabs are. Then I have my center, so I'm going to flip my piece over now. So notice that my images are all upside down. I'm putting glue from the score line to the edge on that last piece, and then I'm centering my middle waterfall, and I'm sneaking under there and I'm applying pressure where I've put that glue. So I'm just using my bone folder to spread the glue. So next I have my pull tab. So I have my handle and I folded down on the score line to create a tab at the back of it. And I have this piece that has the cutout. I'm inserting my tab into the cutout. I'm putting glue all over that tab and then folding it flat. So my handle is inserted and I folded the tab flat on my panel. And then I'm covering the underside of it in glue, including the tab that I've just glued in. And I am gluing it as centered as possible on my base. So I'm positioning my handle piece at the bottom. The edges of this should be right along the edges of my pattern paper at the bottom and on both sides. I'm going to put glue on this mechanism and I'm lowering my mechanism just a little bit. And I want glue just below this line. I'm putting glue from that line to the bottom and then glue just below my little brackets. So just on the part of my thicker cardstock, I don't want any glue on these two pieces. And then I'm positioning my handle so it should be stuck down on these two sides at the bottom and in the middle here. So then when I pull on my handle, and then I have the cover for my card. So I have some more of the patterned cardstock, and then I have some foil poster board. And then I am going to glue on my print and cut panel on top of that. And this is going to get glued to the cover of my card. So next I'm just finishing up a few little details. I've glued a rectangle here and here on that center mechanism. And then I'm pulling the other mechanism open and I am gluing one rectangle here and then another rectangle here. So you don't want to put anything on these two because these two have to slip underneath this bracket here on both sides. So next I'm using some vinyl to decorate some of the solid sections. I'm just using some linerless transfer tape to apply some vinyl detailing, and I've opened up my mechanism and I'm applying vinyl to the rectangles on either side. And then I have a 2-layered plaque here. This is to write your sentiment and sign your card. And so there it is, my triple waterfall Christmas card.